All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining our June garden talk. Today we have Catherine Johnston, one of our master food preservers, who's going to give us a little update and talk about preserving canning. Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, welcome. Today I'm going to be talking to you about preserving, and I don't mean just canning. So I'm going to including freezing, dehydrating, and then of course canning. So that's what my focus is going to be on at the end, is more on the water bath canning versus pressure canning. And I will hopefully answer a lot of commonly called in questions. So if you call in a question, you'll probably end up talking to me one way or the other, because I have been a master food preserver for a number of years, and I have been a home economist for 38 plus all my retirement years. We're not going to go into how many years I retired. But anyways, so I'll be covering most everything from sterilizing the jar to acidifying food. And I will also talk about, there is some little things that you can watch of different things I have done in the past that you can watch at actually hands-on classes. So how many of you are new to preserving? Okay. And how many are came because you have a couple of questions you want answered?
Speak up just a little.
Sure. How many of you, okay, you have some questions you want answered. Okay. So usually I don't ever have trouble talking loudly. So I think it's just the beginning, you know. So anyways, types of preservation. Oops, how do I do this again?
Which one?
Thank you. There we go. So the first one is these jars, and I gave you all in your handout this just be for your own fun. So, and I'll talk to you later about, I have some actual jars up here that have been given to me, and I thought they were ancient. They're old and shouldn't be used, but at the same time, they're not. They're, you know, now I can date them because I found this online. Online, they only have them for Ball. I did not find them for any other manufacturer. There's none for Kerr or other jars. So it was just interesting to find this, and I thought maybe you get a kick out of it. Okay, so types of preservation: freezing, dehydrating, salting, pickling, fermenting, hot water bath, and pressure canning. I will touch on all of them but salting. I have never done salting. Kind of interested in it, but just have never done it. As you're trying to cut back your amount of salt in your diet, it's like I think I better not do that. So anyways, so why do we preserve? So there's 5 basic reasons why we preserve. 1, to extend the shelf life, our food. So that makes sense. 2, to make new products. So jams and jellies are new products. Salsa is a new product. So by combining these things and canning them, you can then extend the life of them. It's not just fresh, though I do like fresh salsa better than canned. It prevents food spoilage and definitely less waste. Reduces bulk. So if I take a bushel of carrots, I reduce it to a whole bunch of jars, which is a lot less. And also, or you have a friend who puts them in the freezer for you. My friend, she did it for me when I broke my arm last year. So it was so nice to have that friend. Anyways. So what makes food spoil? Now, just so you know, my background, I actually taught food science to my students. I went and worked with the FDA for a summer. And so a lot of this my students got in the first week of school because I insisted we had to have a very sanitary kitchen. So microorganisms are naturally occurring in the air. In this room right now, there's probably some mold spores. Enzymes are naturally occurring on your food. So an enzyme actually takes a banana from green to yellow to brown. That's what an enzyme does. What do we have to do in canning? Well, I'm going to tell you what we have to do to kill it. So, and mold, naturally occurring, so it comes down on our food and then causes food to spoil. Yeast, there's good yeast, there's bad yeast. Again, it'll cause food to spoil. And finally, bacteria. And that's the number one thing that we'll be looking at as to why we need to be very safe in our canning. Temperature, the warmer it is, the quicker your food is going to spoil. Moisture, more humidity. Oh, gee whiz. Humidity and temperature today. Don't leave your food out for very long. It's going to make food spoil faster. Chemical reaction, actual oxidation occurs that makes food spoil faster. Hydrolysis, we'll talk about all of these when we're talking about different methods of preserving food. So what to really be aware of? The danger zone. The danger zone is between 40 and 140. Okay. Leaving food out longer than 2 hours is bad. So, and I'm talking about like potato salad, macaroni salad, hamburger, all of those kind of things should not be out of the refrigerator or freezer for longer than 2 hours. So think of that picnic that you went to and you saw the salad sitting there in the afternoon. They've been sitting out in the sun all day on a hot, humid summer day. Is that good to eat? No. Have I had food poisoning? Yes. I've had food poisoning in the United States and Mexico and Jamaica. Don't get it in other countries. Not good. Yeah, they drugged me up so much. It was terrible. I do not remember the rest of my vacation. So anyways, turn the page too fast. So we need to be need to consider that temperature between 40 and 140. But now we need canning, we need to consider the higher temperatures. What is happening? So high temperatures above 165 will destroy most bacteria. I didn't say all, I said most. So what do I need to do? Hot water bath canning is 210 or 212, I should say, around that temperature. And that is then okay for fruits and pickles and jams and jellies, because I'm going to destroy the bacteria that's for those particular kinds of food. And at the same time, I'm going to, the amount of sugar and everything else that's in there will prevent the food from spoiling. That's why we consider that low acid or high acid food, sorry. And then we need to consider the rest of the bacteria. So we need a temperature above 240 degrees. The only way to get 240 degrees is to pressure can. How many of you are pressure canned? How many of you are afraid of the pressure canner? How many are afraid of the pressure canner just because of stories, not because of anything ever happened to you? At some point, I'll be doing a pressure canning class. I've been given 2 pressure canners. I haven't pressure canned myself. I haven't needed to for quite a while. You live alone, you don't need a whole lot of, but I do chicken broth and things like that. And I typically get together with friends and we do it all at once. So anyways, but here's the big thing we need to still look at is 0 degrees. 0 degrees, because we're talking about freezing. 0 degrees stops the bacteria from growing. It didn't kill it. It just stops it. So it's in kind of like a sleepy state. Well, it's in your freezer. I pull it out of the freezer, the bacteria can start growing again. What is the one time of the year that you need to be concerned about that in particular? And I'm going to say gobble, gobble. Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I get a lot of phone calls at that time. Well, I did have one, I think it was in February this year, with a woman. She'd had it in her refrigerator thawing out for 2 weeks. Was it okay to still cook? Is there any ice left? No, it's really mushy. No. Anyways, so the rule of thumb is, if unsure, throw it out. I know it's food or whatever. And I said to her, if you consider doing it right now, you might be okay. Nothing, don't put any stuffing in it, whatever. But anyways, I said, no, she was going to keep it for another week in the refrigerator. Yeah, another. It's like, no, please don't. Yeah. So anyways, so 0 degrees is okay for the food, but just have to remember that the bacteria is still going to be there.
Yeah, and can you click on that, okay, just take that bar down off the slide.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I should have known that because I've been on your side of the room and seen that too. Okay, so why do we need to be diligent? This is the one bacteria that'll kill you. And if it doesn't kill you, it will make you maybe go blind. You will have central nervous system damage. Most food poisonings, as you know, go through the digestive tract, you end up with diarrhea. Yes, you can die from diarrhea. Old people do, whatever, but this one is the one that's going to kill you. Now, I'm going to go off track for a second. I used to tell my student about a true story about a young man who came home. He'd gone to school, gone to work. His mom had made dinner, left it on the counter. She had baked baked potatoes, and she'd taken the baked potato and she'd put it in foil, and she put it in the oven, and it was all cooked supposedly and everything, and she put it out on the counter, and it sat out there from the time they had dinner till this is 9 o'clock at night. Anyways, he ate the baked potato, just popped in his mouth, didn't reheat it, didn't do anything, and went to bed. It was like, yeah, it was enough dinner. The next morning he gets up, he actually doesn't get up, and his mom says, what's wrong? He's like, I just don't feel good. I have a headache and I kind of feel dizzy, whatever, no nausea. But it sounded sort of like a cold flu at the beginning of it. So he was like, mom says, well, stay home. So she stays home. She calls about halfway through the day. I'm feeling terrible. I get seeing spots and everything. And so I'm calling the doctor. The doctor says, bring him to the hospital. So for whatever she said, they were smart enough to get him. But the unfortunate part is this young man lost his sight because of a baked potato. So my question to you is, what did the mother do wrong that caused botulism? And that's one of the reasons, but there's still some reason that the botulism was. Nope, she cooked. You're getting there, but there's still one thing she didn't do well enough at the very beginning. Washed it. The bacteria is in the soil. She didn't wash the potato well enough about putting it in the foil. It kept the moisture in or whatever. So this is my pet peeve. I will not eat the skin of a baked potato in a restaurant because I don't know how well they washed it. It's my little, I don't mean to paranoia you, but that's my little pet peeve. But anyways, so this one is the one. And as a child, I remember Campbell soup being recalled, my favorite soup being recalled, tomato. And it was because that they had a botulism, the cans weren't sealed properly enough and whatever, heated hot enough. So this is the one that you're heating it for to kill off that bacteria. Okay, so we're going to go right into freezing. Freezing is one of the easiest ways that you can get started. So the first thing that you need to do to be successful is to kill the enzymes. We need to blanch the vegetables. Not all things need to be blanched, okay? But some do. So it's a perfect picture I found online, and I'm giving credit to the person who took it. So in order to blanch, what you're going to do is you're going to quickly cook the food in water, very quickly. And you're going to drain it off. And usually you use the little colander thing. The second picture is you dip it in, you cook it for so many minutes, and then you pull it out. You're not thoroughly cooking. You're just killing those enzymes on the outside, the ones that make broccoli turn yellow. You know those. Then you're going to stick up immediately in ice water. Okay. And then you're going to drain it. The picture that's not there is draining and patting it dry because you don't want to add extra water to when you're freezing anything. So, anyways, that's the steps on blanching. We'll be talking about blanching several steps throughout this whole thing. So blanching is one of the key things. The second thing for successful freezing is to eliminate the air. What is the air going to do? Well, the air prevents any more oxidation on the surface. So like, when a banana turns brown when you chop it up, or a peach turns brown, you're going to stop any of that, or even hamburger turns brown. You don't want the air to get to it. Okay. Number 3 is the microorganisms. Again, we want to kill them. Well, we're not going to be killing them, but we are going to slow their growth. So I just need to know that. So what are you going to do to prevent it from the baked potato? We're going to do what first? Really well. We're going to wash it. Okay. And I know some people just take their carrots out and hose them off a little bit. You need to really, she did it really well. But anyways, ice crystals. So you want small ice crystals. They're more desirable and keeps the texture proper. Small ice crystals are formed when you quickly, so as soon as that you got it out there, got to dry, get it into the freezer, and you're going to lay it down. I usually take a cookie sheet and I lay all my broccoli down on a cookie sheet, and it goes faster, more airspace, whatever. I don't leave it on the cookie sheet. As soon as they're frozen, I'd have my Ziploc baggie, dump them all in, put them back in the freezer. So you need to keep the temperature consistent. So avoiding adding more than 2 pounds of frozen food per square foot of your freezer. Now, I just do it in little amounts anyway, so that doesn't affect me. But if you're buying a whole big bushels of carrots or whatever, and you're freezing them, you might want to consider, is your freezer empty enough to do this? And keep the freezer consistent. Okay. So the last thing is evaporation of moisture. So, and I know you've had this before, freezer burn is what the results is. So poor packaging leaves the food unprotected, and the freezer allows the food to lose the moisture, which will cause, of course, then the color and the flavor and the texture, and it's all about drying. So the moisture is gone. So you want to make sure it's sealed tightly. So what do we need to do then? Okay. So number 1, we need to have good plastic or glass containers that are meant for freezing. not glass containers that are meant for canning. Question.
Question going back to the freezer space.
Uh-huh.
For the 2 pounds of food per square foot of
Your freezer.
space,
Mhm.
is that just for when you're getting it from not frozen to frozen? Or
Yes.
is that for all of this?
No, it is for,
Okay.
thank you, yes, okay.
Thank you.
So her question was regarding the amount of space needed, and it is for when you're freezing it. What did that say? Don't know, okay. Okay. So good plastic containers, don't chimp on it, you know, buy the better ones. Anyways, freezer bags and wraps, those are always really good, the ones that are meant for freezing. Also butcher paper for meat. Those are very suitable. If you can get a butcher to sell you some of his freezer paper, I'm just saying, really, really good. So anyways, they do have specially designed canning jars. They're silicone ice cube trays. Love using those. So say I had some lemons. I bought a big bag of lemons. I only needed in the end 2, but I had a whole bag of them. So what did I do? I squeezed them out and I put all the juice in all the little ice cube trays. And then I took them after they froze and I put them in a Ziploc baggie. So now I can reach in, I need a thing of lemons. Ting, there it is. So ice cube trays work really, really well. A sheet with a lip on it, that's the one, and make sure before you go and put it all on there, make sure it fits in your freezer first. I have my grandmother's cookie sheets. They're bigger than, well, my sister can't, the reason I got them is my sister couldn't fit them in her stove. They're so big, and I'm like, oh, these would be perfect. They didn't fit in my freezer either. So, oops, that's the wrong page. Doing it again. As finally, labeling supplies, you might want to label everything because frankly, sometimes things don't look like what you thought. Oh no, I'll know that this just happened to me the other day. Mushrooms in the freezer. I thought it was beef. Nope, it was mushrooms. I hadn't labeled it. I had a date on it, but I didn't have to say what it was. So you might want to get some labels. And I find them to be super cheap. By the way, if you take them off when they're right in the freezer, take them off, they'll come off the containers easier than letting us sit. Don't ask me why. The glue, I think something happens when it reaches unthawed state. Blanching supplies, a very large pot, one that a colander or a basket could fit in, an ice bath, so a big bowl, a lot of ice, a slotted spoon, kitchen towels, and cutting boards and knives, of course, are needed for blanching. Okay. What do you need to dehydrate? So dehydration, first of all, you need, and I didn't put a slide in here because I didn't want to promote one company over another. Dehydration, you're going to need, I'm going to talk about several, but I like my food dehydrator. And I can't tell you the name of it because we're not allowed to, but the dehydrator has a thermostat on the top. And then I can set it. And I can set it to the temperature I need for fruits or vegetables or different herbs. So it does make a difference. There are other ones that don't have it. And all you have to do is they have to keep changing the levels of your trays. And I had that kind at first. And one of my parents loaned me a Ronco. You remember Ronco? They're I'll never forget it. We had it on and I went home at the end of the day, told my custodians, when you're done with the day, can you turn off the the dehydrator? So I got a phone call at night. It had burned up. And it literally melted altogether. And so I had to call the parents and say, I'm so sorry. And they said, oh, really? I said, yeah. So I said, I'll save it so you can see it and maybe you have a warranty on or whatever. But anyways, there's square dehydrators and there's round dehydrators. I'm just going to tell you ahead of time, the square ones are more expensive and they are the better air circulation or whatever. The round ones, as long as the air circulates from the top down, those are the next best. And the ones that don't have a thermostat, I would leave it. I'm going to tell you, the day I got my dehydrator was the last day I took the course for this. So 2019, I went to Salvation Army in Batavia and they had the dehydrator for $10. Yeah. It's $100, $120 dehydrator. They didn't know what they had, brand new. Dehydrators are the number one gift kids give their parents for something to do at Christmas. They're at a lot of garage sales. Just telling you, go to garage sales to find a really good deal. So what do I need? So preparation, you're going to be washing your fruits and vegetables thoroughly, removing stems, pits, and bruised, spoiled areas, and you're going to slice them evenly. Why evenly? Well, it's going to dehydrate unevenly then. So some of the stuff will be done, some of the stuff won't be done. Um, Anyway, so get consistent on how you slice things. You're going to be blanching again, as we already talked about. So we want to kill the enzyme. You're going to, if you use a dehydrator, prepare them and again, slice them evenly, put them on one layer on the tray. And the temperature generally for fruits is 135, for vegetables is 125. But if you have a dehydrator, it will tell you that in the book. Dry until the food is completely dry and no longer feels moist and it's not sticky. Okay. And that's for food. I'll talk about herbs in a minute. Oven drying, set the oven between 140 to 170. That's if your oven will do it. And it will take, depending again on how long you have, it will depend on what the food is. And leave the door open so the moisture can escape. So I don't like doing that in the wintertime or the summertime because now I'm heating up my kitchen really hot for a long period of time. So I don't tend to do that. And that's why I like the dehydrator also. And storing them, you're going to make sure that the food is generally sealed. In a sealed container, not anything loose, and distribute the moisture, storing an airtight container in a cool, dark place. Now, the other thing that you might want to buy is this. But make sure it's a food safe one. I don't have a food safe one to example right now to give you to show you, but this is the things that come in your shoes. You know, when you buy them, it's a desiccant, and so they make them for food. And you might have seen, if anybody buys beef jerky ever, you might see one of those in there. And so you can buy them at the food supply store out the other end of town, and it'll take out any extra moisture. So this is a good thing to invest if you're going to be doing a lot of dehydration. Okay, drying herbs. When to harvest them? Well, I like this line. It says, on a sunny day, mid-morning when the dew has evaporated. Doesn't that just sound like a beginning of a poem? So that's how you're going to know that's the time to cut your herbs. So, but I always knew it was in the morning, not in the afternoon. So you want the time of day to be that. So also make sure that there's no flowers that are open. That'll make a bitter. And the very new leaves are the best, but you know, sometimes you don't get out there that often. I can tell you that what I do for my basil, I usually have one plant. And so for my basil, I'll cut them and I'll stick them in a plastic bag and stick them in the freezer. So I don't dehydrate them. I just stick them in the freezer and I just keep adding to them. So I have this big bag of dehydrated basil, or I should say frozen basil, that I use for my pestos and things like that. So for preparation, remove any of the bruised or soiled or imperfect leaves. Inspecting the leaves for insects. You don't want insects. You're going to rinse them off with cool water, gently shake them. But here's my helpful hint. Use a salad spinner. Again, great garage sale find, usually for $1, a garage sale. And it dries them off really well. Okay, the methods are air drying. Now I went out to the garden to cut some herbs this morning. I was going to do it. And you could put them in a little bunch. I got out there, got sidetracked with the Orioles, and it was like, oh, look at that. And I got inside, forgot all about it, got here and said, oh, I forgot the herbs. Anyways, so use a rubber band. So if I got them in a little bunch, use a rubber band around them. And why a rubber band? Because it's so pretty with the string, isn't it? I mean, you can use a string afterwards, but anyways, put the rubber band around it because as it's drying, they're going to shrink. So the things will start falling out, but the rubber band will keep it all together. So what I do is I put the rubber band around, I put a string around it just to make it look pretty as I'm hanging it up. Let's see, microwave. So microwaving basil, parsley, and celery leaves do really, really well in the microwave. However, the higher wattage of your microwave, the less likely going to be successful. So less than 1,000 wattage for your microwave is the best. The length of time, it depends on the amount. So what you do is just like you're melting chocolate, you do it 1 minute, then 30 seconds after that, and you just keep doing it. Beware. However, you're gonna put paper towel laying down and you put your herbs in there. You could start a fire. So watch the temperature. If it gets too hot, stop and let it sit there you could let it sit with your microwave door open, then start up again. So let it just cool down a little bit. Conditioning and storage. So after you think it's all ready, well, how do you know it's ready? We'll talk about that in a second. But anyways, you're going to put them in an airtight container after it's been cooled completely. And then again, store them in a cool, dark place. Oops. I went to the wrong place. So sorry, I keep slipping, turning the pages. So what did I just do? The microwave oven, I talked about that. Okay, seed harvesting. Seeds of dill, caraway, mustard, and fennel can be left on the plant until mature. Okay, a word of caution about this. It says cut this flower stakes and put the entire plant, hang it upside down. Now, my friend here and I can attest to what happened this last year. We left in and let the, the dill dry on the plant. And as we took them off, the seeds went all across the garden. My seeds not only went across the garden, but went around the corner. And I now have dill in other flower beds that only ever had flowers. So I have this cute little dill coming up everywhere. So my suggestion is to take a plastic bag and put over the top of the heads of whatever it is you're saving the seeds for. Grab it and like nothing, and now turn it upside down, someplace where you can put something underneath it that you don't care about, because otherwise you're going to have little plants everywhere. So anyways, it just like, I couldn't believe when I went to her garden, it's like, I got this too. And so anyways, and you know what? I never used any of those seeds yet either. So anyways, dehydrator, again, you can dehydrate them very easily. The temperature for an herb is 95 to 110, so a little less than for your fruits and vegetables. And you're going to dry them until they're crispy. Oven drying is not recommended since the temperature should not be above 180 degrees, and most of our ovens do not do less than that. But I have done it for certain herbs, the thinner ones, and I put it on a cookie sheet and a little rack, put it in there, and I don't turn on my oven, and all the light bulb is hot enough in my oven to take enough moisture out. And that is actually okay according to standards that I have to go by. Sun drying is not recommended for our area because of high humidity and prevents quick removal of moisture. So yeah. Okay, I keep not turning the page right. Testing for dryness. I just said it. It's my favorite thing. It says crispy and crumbly. It just like sounds like a good cookie. So when you put it between your hands, it'll crunch. So that's when you know that it's done. Again, do it over a paper towel and not just stand there in the kitchen and it's gonna land everywhere. Treatment. So if you air dried anything, you need to destroy the insects. Yeah, or any little eggs or whatever. So then they suggest that you, and I've never done this because I've never done it that way. You heat treat it by putting it in the oven for 30 minutes, 160 degrees, or by freezing it for 48 hours. So you can freeze it. Again, I was going to bring you some frozen basil and show you, you have to worry about when you freeze things like an herb, because then they're going to have condensation. So don't take out take out what you need out of the freezer and reseal it, because otherwise you're going to end up with too much moisture in your food. Storage, avoid exposing them to air, heat, and light. So an airtight container in a dark, cool place, not next to the stove, not next to the sink. And how long do you think it should last? How long can I keep my herbs? Until the next year. It's for 1 year. So I did put on here the substitutions for if you want to, I'll keep it there for a second. So it's just one of those things. You can look it up at all the times, but I do sometimes forget. It's like fresh is more than dried. Okay, just keep it that way. So I need more when it's fresh. I need less when it's dried. And if I powder it, and I just was watching a very interesting video on dehydrating and powdering a certain vegetable, which I'll talk about later on. It was like, I'm gonna make a powder out of that. I don't know. So everybody have what they want. Okay. Okay, freeze drying. Now, I'm only going to do this one slide about freeze drying. I've never freeze dried. I've never tasted it. Unfortunately, have you seen the freeze dried candies around?
My kids love them.
Yeah. And I would love to try them. Unfortunately, every single one of them freeze dries Snickers or some other peanutty thing. I'm highly allergic to peanuts. So, and they can't guarantee that the tray hasn't touched the peanuts. So I can't try them. So, but anyways, it is a very expensive machine that you have to buy. And but the texture of the food is supposed to be really good. And it's supposed to take up even less space, and the weight is supposed to be less than dehydrated food. So there's the advantage to it. I've looked into the machine, and the cheapest machine that I saw was $400. For a whim, I don't think I'm going to do it. So canning, finally, maybe the reason you came. Canning. So I'm going to go from left to right. The first one is a hot water bath that's electric. And I'm put this one in because I got to try one. One of my friends bought it and let me use it. The advantage of buying an electric one. Notice the spigot on the side. The spigot on the side means that I can hook my, I don't have to, I can just take my hose from my sink, put it over, fill it up, put my jars in there, process it, and when I'm all done, I turn it and put the spigot water into the sink. I don't have to lift that big, heavy granite ware thing across the kitchen. And it's like, yeah. So it is a little smaller as far as the number of cans that you can put in there. But at the same time, it is like, for me and lifting things now, since I shattered my elbow last year, I'm considering buying this, investing in that one. So the second one is a granite one, and it has a little thing to lift it up. And so does the ball one, has a little lifter. The next one is a pressure canner that's electric. It is not an Instapot. Okay, we are not recommending you can in Instapots. It might say you can, but we're not recommending it. Okay, so just have to be very clear about that. That one again, easy. You put it on the counter. It's quite easy to move and maneuver. Haven't found the friend that has one of those yet. I'm waiting for that. And then the last one is the typical pressure canner that has both a gauge and a jiggler. The little black thing is a jiggler, and it'll make a lot of noise when you're processing. Having a gauge is the most accurate method to use, but you're supposed to test them every year. Okay, where can you get them tested? For free. Right here, we have a tester. So, anyways, you can get them tested. You can get ones with just a jiggler, and you can get ones with a multiple. So, anyways, I just find that the jiggler makes noise, so I remember what I was doing, because I can tend to forget. Oh, what squirrel? Oh, so. Okay, when to select which method. So how do I know that most everything I'm ever going to do is hot water bath? Well, let's go through the list. So high acid food, anything that has a 4.6 or lower is a high acid foods. What are they? All of your fruits are high acid foods. There are a few, and I'll go over those in a minute, but most of ours that are local. Acidified tomatoes. We'll talk about acidification in a second. Pickles, anything you pickle can be canned in a hot water bath. And all your jellies, jams, and hot pepper jam are going to be hot water bath. Okay. Pressure canning, low acid foods, anything with a pH above 4.6. All of your vegetables have to be pressure canned. If you're adding other vegetables to tomatoes, okay, some salsa recipes can be hot water bath, some cannot. Okay, follow the directions that go along with the recipe that you're using. All your meats, all your poultry, all your game have to be pressure canned. Have I done them in the past? Yes. I will, like I said, I do soup. I've gotten to the point where I don't do it as much because I don't want to spend the money on the rings and the lids. So I freeze a lot of my soup broth. Okay, the acidity of food. I thought this was probably one of the better slides, pictures with a pH scale showing you what is the highest acid to the lowest acid. And so you'll see that some of the pictures there show lemons, and then it has vinegar, and then it has tomatoes, and tomatoes are on that line. Tomatoes didn't used to be on that line. They were more acidic, but we've changed them. And that so high acid foods, like I said, are most fruits, apples, pears, peaches, berries, and any citrus are high acid. Pickles, anything pickled, most barbecue sauces and most salsas, but I said most, I didn't say all. So again, you have to go by your recipe as to which ones you don't have to process. Melons, persimmons, papaya, pineapple, and tomatoes are considered a low acid food. Okay. Okay. How do I raise the acidity? Well, 3 different choices. You can raise by vinegar, lemon juice, or citric acid. Okay, vinegar is a naturally occurring thing that that they process. It is unfortunately can leave a taste in it, but your vinegars that you use have to be 5%. Okay, there's the must. So balsamic vinegar, no, you're not going to can with balsamic vinegar, and even all white vinegars are not 5% any longer. So you have to look at your label and see in the little print. And I noticed I almost picked up a jug the other day that said 4%. No good to me. So I make sure that you're getting 5%. I don't know why they recently have changed it. So, so make sure it says 5%. Do not dilute your vinegar in your recipe. If it says they want a half a cup, you put in a half a cup. And if the product is too sour for you, you want it to be sweeter, you can add sugar. Just don't reduce the amount of vinegar. Okay. So the recipes are very specific. Vinegar may be used to acidify tomatoes. This is the rate, 1/4 cup per quart. So a whole quarter cup goes into a jar. That could make it really kind of taste like vinegar. So I don't use this method. I'm just telling you what you can do. The second method is lemon juice. Lemon juice, again, make sure you use bottled lemon juice to be consistent. If you use just lemons, every lemon could be a little bit different, but so as to be consistent, you want to use lemon bottle juice. For a tomato, it's 2 tablespoons. Notice the reduction, 2 tablespoons per quart, or 1 tablespoon per pint. Again, it might leave a little flavor. So you can use that or not. I have used it. I did notice a little lemon zip to it, whatever, but that's okay. So what's the last option? The last option is citric acid, which I'll show you at the end. I have some over there for you. It is a solid white crystalline powder. You use 1/2 teaspoon per quart of tomatoes and 1/4 teaspoon per pint, so a lot less. You use your normal amount of salt and everything else with any of these, but this is citric acid is probably, in my opinion, the easiest. Ascorbic acid is not citric acid. Ascorbic acid is vitamin C, and that's what they use to prevent browning. So do not substitute citric acid for, or substitute ascorbic acid for citric acid. And you can buy the citric acid wherever you buy your canning jars, your lids, or whatever. It's a little bottle about that big. Did I loan you that, the bottle? Somebody I loaned it to, I don't know, or gave it to and said, I don't know. I was going to show you the size difference. Okay, equipment. So you can buy these kits. I'm not promoting a kit. I'm just saying you can buy these kits if you're a first-time canner. On the left-hand side is from Ball. It is their version of what you need to can. And they have a lifter, a jar lifter, which is my opinion, that is the one thing you need. And I'll show you mine. That's the one thing it's like I can't do without. And my mother did not have one until, I don't know, probably the last 5 years of her life. And it's like, how did she get those out? But she would go in there with tongs and, very difficult. So the jar lifter, is my opinion, is the one thing you should have. The funnel jar, the jar funnel, I have one. I hardly ever use it. And I'll talk about that later. And then also the little black thing on the front is called a bubbler, a remover, and also a headspace tool. So the headspace tool, you'll see a better picture of this coming up, but it tells you how much headspace that you should have on each jar. And very easy. Now, and I'll tell you a substitute in a second. The next one was Presto, and they have similar things, but their little bubbler also has a lid remover, and it's pretty cool. And I'll show you mine. I have a different one than theirs. And they also included a wrench. If you're using a wrench, that means that you tightened your jar lid too tight. And I would say, tighten it a lot less. So anyways, but you can see the difference between the two. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. I knew there was one more thing. So also it substitutes for those things. Use a plastic ruler. You don't have to go. So you got your kid's plastic ruler. Just wash it and you can use it to figure out how much headspace you need. The other thing is use a plastic knife that you can get at one of your local food stores and use that to take the bubbles out. It's free. It won't graze your jar or anything. My mom used to use our kitchen knife. Found out that it kept breaking. So a metal knife going down in the inside of the jar over and over again leaves little grazing. Okay, so a plastic knife doesn't do that. So prevents it from breaking later on. Okay, what's the difference between hot pack and cold pack? Hot pack is is when you process the food by heating it up and cooking it. So when I do tomatoes, I typically start peeling them, throwing them in and processing them and then cooking them. And you cook them till they're really, really hot. You put them in your hot jars and then you put it in your hot water bath. It's really simple, in my opinion. They like cold pack is even better. And I'll talk about that in a second. Benefits are they have a better color, the flavor is better, and less floating of the food in the jar. Fewer are needed because you're going to be able to put it in more into a jar, and it's ideal for anything that is hot water bath. Cold pack is when I take my tomato, and I have done this, and when I do the class, I usually do it that way, and you peel your tomatoes and you stick them in the jar and you smash them down. Okay, so they're cold. Everything's going. Typically, cold pack is going into the pressure canner, but you can do tomatoes is the one thing because I'm going to acidify them. It's faster to start. Okay, so I'm going to put them in those jars cold, and I know how much. The idea is that the pressure canner will actually do all the rest of the work and change the texture of it. Less food fits in the jar, and you're going to have a lot more headspace in the long run. You're going to try, but it's not going to work. So there's more floating food and more discoloration. I don't typically do a whole lot of cold packing. Hello. Oh, there we go. Okay, I got sidetracked while I was doing this whole thing on jars. And you're going to see I have a whole lot of jars. I'll have a question at the end for those of you that are here about which ones are really canning jars and which ones you shouldn't use. So there's a lot of things to consider. First of all, the size. And the sizes come, you can buy them 4 ounce, 8 ounce, 12 ounce, 16 ounce, 32 ounce, and 64 ounces. 64 ounces. I'm going to start with the big thing. It's 2 quarts. You can buy them at Walmart. I saw them there, and they come in 8 in a box. And I'm like, oh my God, those things are huge. They're only good for 2 things to can: apple juice, grape juice, not for anything else. So don't get excited like, oh, I'm going to can bigger jars of tomatoes. No, they're not for tomatoes. So it's only for canning. So that's the negative on that size. The other negative one is 12 ounce. Okay. 12 ounce, they no longer make. So you might find them at a garage sale or whatever. The reason why is none of your recipes talk about what to do for 12 ounces or what to even do for 4 ounces. So how do I know how long to process my 4 ounce jar or my 12 ounce jar? You go up one size. So 4 ounce, you have to think of it as an 8 ounce. So if it says to process my jelly for 10 minutes, then you do that for your 4 ounce jars. You don't cut the time in half. So if I had a 12 ounce jar, which is 10 minutes for an 8 ounce or 20 minutes for a 16 ounce, what do I do? You do it for the 20 minutes. So that's the negatives of those things. And I included it because when you get these odd sizes, your recipes don't conform to the sizes. Okay, consider age. Okay, so I have 4 jars that are actually from my house. And it wasn't too hard to have collections of everything. So the very big jar in the back is a 2-quart jar that had pickles in it one time. And my mom used to reuse jars. And this is where that came from. The little blue one on the left side is very, very old. So do I want to use it? No. The jars, actually, their life expectancy is only 10 to 13 years. My mother died 30 years ago. I still have her jars. I think it's time for me to go through and maybe get rid of them. So that was a new one for me. There's also a jar that has a little metal top. That was a jelly jar, and they used to use it to make jelly, and they'd put wax on top of it. We do not any longer recommend that. And then, of course, they still do sell some of these ones with the rubber banding on it. I do not use those myself, but they are out there. They're newer. Make sure you get a new seal. Okay, consider color. So blue, green, and purple. And there's also yellow, and there's brown, and yeah, there's all different colors. Not all of them are for canning. Some of them are for crafts. Yellow is always, always, always for crafts. So if you find them, yellow is definitely not your friend. Now, those other jars that I bought up there, I bought a garage sale thinking, oh, this is really cool. So I'll talk at the end about which ones I mistakenly bought because they were so cool, but they're not all of them for canning. So anyways, the problem with using colored ones is it kind of distorts the color of your food, so you don't know if anything is happening. Okay. Consider age. Nope, sorry, wrong one. Consider the jar's purpose. So be aware of jars that are not for canning. So I've showed 3 here, and one on the far right actually says on the bottom, not for canning. Okay. Thank God for them now putting that on the bottom of most jars. The one in the middle is a sticker, and I happened to find it, and it said, oh, not for canning, which was good that I found it. And the one on the far side, the far left, doesn't have any, but I just know because of the shape, it's not for canning. So, but I put a lid on it to show you that the lid fits all of those jars. So now I say no to anybody says, oh, I got an old glass mayonnaise jar. We can can in it. Don't. Okay. They were made thinner because they were meant for one-time use for the manufacturers to make your mayonnaise or your peanut butter. So start recycling those. You know, I kind of my mom into finally getting rid of those. Okay. What do I need to, this was a phone call not too long ago. Do I have to sterilize all my jars and lids? The answer is no. As long as you're going to process your food for 10 minutes or longer in the hot water bath or the pressure cooker, you don't have to sterilize the jars. So it's yes, if it's under 10 minutes. No, you do not have to sterilize your lids any longer. In fact, they don't want you to. When COVID hit, one of the things they started doing is if you look at if you have an old box versus a new box, you'll see the little plastic around the top. It's a lot thinner than it used to be. So they put less on there. So they don't want you to heat those up anymore. You used to have to boil them for 10 minutes. They just want you to put it in warm water, wash it and put it in warm water, and then put it on because the processing will take care of the rest of it. So please don't actually sterilize the lids any longer. Okay. Headspace. So this is a better picture of the little Headspace tool, showing you the distance. So each one of those little marks, you have to read it ahead of time, tells you where it's a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, etc. So the I have to go back to my notes. So it's a 1/4 inch headspace for jams and jellies, a 1/2 inch headspace for tomatoes and pickles and fruits, 1 1/4 inches for anything that's low acid or meats, and some of them can even be more. So more headspace. So the air in that whole air determines, and actually the determination of how much headspace you need determines the food that you're putting in there, the amount of starch content, and the temperature you're actually processing. So it's all predetermined. And this is a problem we could talk about later about old recipes that don't have you how long to process food. So we don't know. So too little headspace allows for the food to expand and it'll spurt out the sides. So if you've ever canned and in the hot water bath, all of a sudden there's floating tomato seeds, you didn't leave enough headspace. And then too little is probably not allowing everything to heat up properly and get all the air out that you need to. So you check, if you don't have one of those, you can use a ruler, but check it occasionally to make sure that you're doing it. After you usually do one, you can usually eye it for the rest of them. The other thing is there's a slide, and I'm telling you this because I saw it. There's a slide or photo on the internet showing a mason jar, and showing you guys exactly what the rim, each rim means. This is a quarter, this is a half, this is an inch. That's for mason jars, but not all ball mason jars, not all things are those. And so if you buy like the off brands, they're not all consistent. So you want to be very careful about when you intermix. And you know, I don't have just all one company. I have many, many companies. So again, it's better to check than to just assume, oh, I know what it is, you know, one rim. Signs of food spoilage. This again was the first week of school in my classroom. I always talked about what do we throw it out? When do we throw it out? So the picture shows you, are you going to eat that? I can remember it in a day that my mom would say, oh, just peel it up. No, 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 no. Okay, so the number one thing is the bulging lid. So you have your lid and you just put your finger in the middle. And if it goes up and down, it's a bulging lid that kind of goes ding, 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 ding. Okay, no good. My mom used to check every month. She'd go down, she'd go to the basement and she'd run her hands across each of the jars. Our whole basement was filled with canning jars. So it took her a while. And but anyways, you go around and you check them, make sure that there's no bulging. If there's any food coming out of them, you're going to throw it away, which means bacteria has gotten in. If there's an off odor when you open it up and it doesn't smell like those peaches and instead it smells like fermented fruit and you weren't making grandma's fermented fruit batch, toss it. If there's mold, of course, we already said that. Spurting food, when you open up, it comes out like champagne, toss it. There's a sign of bacteria being in there. And finally, if it's cloudy, liquid should be mostly clear unless you're making cream corn. So if it's cloudy, again, bacteria has gotten in there. Come on. Okay, how to store the jars. So you're going to place the jars in a cool, dark place. Are you going to leave the lid, the rings on there? No. So you'll see a picture that has them right and a picture that has them wrong. The ones with the rings on them are going to give necessarily a false positive to the lids being sealed. So after 24 hours, you're going to remove the rings, wash the jars, and then you store them. But by leaving the rings on, you're giving this sensation. And I've had that happen, that as soon as you take the ring off, all of a sudden it pops open, which meant it wasn't sealed properly to begin with. So anyways, so just go along, like I said, monthly, check them off. Okay, this phone call came in just last week about canning on a smooth cooking top. The question was not actually that. Yeah.
Before you move on, so if you take the ring off and it pops, can you reseal that jar or do you toss it?
Yeah, it depends on the amount of time. If you're saying that you took it off within the 24 hours,
Yeah.
yes, you can reprocess it. If you take off the lid and then, or take off the ring, and then you have, say it's been months.
No,
yeah.
No, I'm talking within that 24 hours.
Yes. Yes, then you can reprocess it. My suggestion is put it in the refrigerator and eat it that night. That's my traditional answer of what I would do. But anyways, how many of you have these flat top stove tops? Okay.
My hot fire.
Oh,
Yeah, the control panel on the back.
yeah, yeah.
Hot fire a couple years ago.
So
I got rid of it.
this woman's question was that she was saying, well, my jam isn't coming out okay. It's coming out loosey-goosey. And she said, I went over to my friend's house and the same recipe came out perfect.
Mhm.
So I'm talking to her on the phone and I finally said, what kind of stovetop do you have? And so she told me. I said, it's your stovetop. Now, not all stovetops are bad. I'm just saying this, hers, and I have to look this up because I can never remember what it's called. The automatic cutoff on the burner. So what happens on the older versions, they would heat up to a certain point and cool down, heat up and cool down. So the amount of temperature that's going up to the jelly, and if you've ever made jelly, it's like you got to have it boil rapidly for 1 minute and you're stirring frantically or whatever. But meanwhile, to get there, it takes about 15 minutes. It takes longer than that. Something's wrong. And so the amount of evaporation that happens and everything else will affect the consistency. So anyways, I said to her, you're going to have to start doing your jelly making at your friend's house. Yes, point blank. Or they actually do have, so if you really want to do things, they do have a electric jelly making product. Ball and Presto both have these little pots that you can make it in the stovetop. Yeah. Okay. So I need to talk that through. Well, anyways, so check with your manufacturer. on to say, so this means when you go to buy one of these, read the book. Don't trust the guy in the back that's selling you the stovetop. He might not know. He's going to say yes anyways. So anyways, they also make, there's a company that makes a flat top, a ball and Vertebro make a new stainless steel canner that will fit your tops too, that are better. Okay, methods we do not recommend. This one I had to include because I actually have seen most of them or heard of most of them. I have never done any of them. Solar canning is the one where it has the cans in the little bin and the sun was supposed to come down or whatever. So what's the problem with that? The temperature, the sun, the clouds, whatever. It's not consistent. So don't do it. The oven canning, please don't tell me you ever did it. They stuck the jars in the oven, set the timer and whatever. Yeah. The dishwasher method, I actually had a 90-year-old woman tell me that she did it in her dishwasher. No, it's not safe. And then the microdome, I included this. This was from, I'm telling you this right now. It was on an eBay picture. I knew about it. I couldn't find any other picture of this product so that I could take it. It has been recalled. It exploded in your microwave. So yes, don't buy it. Don't, it's on eBay right now for sale. It's been recalled and they, every so often one will show up. So my last slide with information that you need. Use reliable science-based recipes, okay? Ball has recipes. All of your extensions, you can go online to Maine, to Georgia, et cetera. They all have ones. The National Center for Home Preservation, go online, become a friend, and they'll send you recipes every month. Be leery of any Facebook recipes and sites. I will tell you, look for comments to see what people are saying. Guaranteed you there's going to be an American on there saying this is not safe. And it's usually a European recipe and they will can anything, including milk. Do not can anything with milk. It's not safe. There used to be a recipe going around for a fudge sauce. I'll give you the fudge sauce, just don't can it. Make it up. It's not going to last that long anyways. Once you open that jar, it's too good to be true. So anyways, preserving, I know you can. So go get started. And with that, I actually have a index card back there for you of 4 classes I will be doing. And you can sign up in, at the office here. These are my resources that you can look at and see you in August, which is the George Eastman Garden. And I'm done.
Thank you, Kathy.